Cat Crimes. This is a puzzle game by ThinkFun. It is in the tradition of puzzles by ThinkFun, such as Rush Hour, in which you have a fixed set of components and then you have a set of challenge cards, each with a different puzzle that can be set up, again, starting always with the same components, and then, well, you resolve it. And all puzzles have a solution printed on the back of the card. And also there are different levels from beginner all the way to expert. This makes the game playable by children that will especially enjoy the beginner level, maybe the intermediate level, but they may get stuck there. And also you can play it as an adult. At this point, the beginner levels probably won't be all that interesting, but there are some really interesting challenges in the advanced and expert level. Ideally, or to say allegedly, this game is supposed to be a mystery. In each case, in each puzzle, a cat has committed a crime, such as eating the bird, or hitting the fish from the fishbowl, or ruining the shoes of the person, or the cat lady, I believe, or the cat man, whoever is the person that has 6 cats in their house. In each puzzle, a cat has done something naughty, and you need to figure out who did it. Although the crime in a sense is irrelevant, this is a game of spatial logic in which you simply need to figure out where these cats should go around the play area, around the board here, based on the indications and the clues on the card, and then whichever cat is sitting in front of the element on the board representing the crime will be the culprit, and you found the culprit. In truth, again, even if you didn't have that, that seems a little bit of a pretext, because if you did not have that, the puzzle will be pretty much the same, because it simply is about figuring out where the cats are sitting around the play area. But for example, suppose that we are playing, I don't know, who broke the flower pot? Then we look for among these tokens for the one representing the object of the crime, and we put it on that, on the space corresponding to that, item. If it was the yarn that had been ruined, we will have this one, ruined shoes, this one, etc., etc. Now you have to imagine that display area is divided in 6 areas, in 6 different areas, and each area has a main object, in this case the fishbowl, and then 2 clues. Here, for example, a sock and a bell ball. This one has the yarn and a toy mouse and a footprint. Here we have the claw mark, not all that easy to see at the beginning, catnip, shoes, and so on and so forth. And then we have these 6 named cats that will go in different positions. Following the clues, we need to figure out the cat that goes in front of that space, because that will be the culprit that has committed that feline crime. The cats have different names, and their physical configurations in some cases doesn't matter. Sometimes the clue will be indirect, like a cat with white paws is sitting in front of a ball. And then, well, there's 2 possible ones. Where a cat with long hair is sitting next to a cat with a bell, with a bow, etc., etc., with a collar, for example. Now, just the easiest thing is simply to show you this example and to play it a little bit, at least to give you a sense of how it works. For each case, you have a series of clues that you do not have to follow in order. In fact, sometimes they're scrambled around. That is the order in which it makes sense to follow them, in which you may gain some insights, is not necessarily the one that you see here. In fact, it's good to look for some names that are repeated, and so that gives you multiple information about a specific type of cat. Sometimes a clue may tell you that a certain cat was upstairs sleeping at the time in which the crime was committed, in which case the cat is not in that puzzle, in that case. Sometimes not all cats are there, but the card doesn't say it explicitly. Part of the fun is to figure it out. Here, for example, we're told that Mr. Mittens was sitting in front of the fishbowl. This is a beginner mystery, so not particularly difficult. So we place Mr. Mittens there, easy. Sassy was sitting to Mr. Mittens' left. And so, again, easy peasy. Tomcat was sitting near claw marks. Tomcat could be sitting here or could be sitting there. Ooh, plot thickens. Ginger was sitting 2 seats from Sassy. And just based on this information, we can see that she could be sitting here, 1, 2, because Sassy's here, or here, 1, 2. And in this case, Tomcat would go there. Oh no, so we saw this Ginger was sitting to the Duchess's right, etc, etc, etc. I don't want to complete the puzzle because I don't want to give you too many spoilers, but this will give you a sense. So pretty much each case is, again, a list of clue of where everybody was possibly sitting, relative to other cats, relative to elements on the table. And that's pretty much the game, pretty much how the game works. You can just pause and read some of these clues to get a sense of how it works and the kind of challenge that you can expect. So Cat's Crime is super simple. It is barely a board game to me. Frankly, you could just have these cards here, and this could be made smaller. It could just be the size of this. Could be a dry erase board, and you would just write down the names and the or symbols representing the cats, and you would be able, and then you would circle with a dry erase marker the object of the crime, and that'd be it. And you would have, incidentally, a really nice small travel version. Maybe somebody at ThinkFun will think of that. Now, it is, of course, having these props makes the game more fun, or at least I'd say more tangible. More fun, definitely, for young players. So my daughters that are 6 and 8 definitely enjoyed looking at these cats, moving these game components around. Again, I was thinking, oh, like a travel version I can play in the airplane, but the daughters had fun moving things around. And actually, that also can help you think by placing the cat in certain positions. You are making notes. Suppose that there is a scenario that tells me that Mr. Mittens is next to Sassy and sitting across from Ginger, and Ginger is sitting to the left of the Duchess. And then, of course, I make hypotheses and I move things around. And there have been cases in which, in fact, I pretty much, quote-unquote, solve the case without even looking at the board, simply based on the relative position of the cats to one another. And then I added the board to figure out who was sitting in front of the object that had been the target of the crime. That is just an example, by the way, of how, in a sense, irrelevant or not very relevant the mystery element feels. You could solve the entire case without having any idea of which is the object of the crime. That doesn't really matter, because suppose we discovered Mr. Mittens did it, but in truth, to place Mr. Mittens there, you need to know where Pipsqueak or Ginger or Tomcat go. But in general, it is a fun, simple puzzle. Simple in terms of rules, so there aren't really any, I would say. You just figure out things based on what you find here. You follow the instructions, follow the clues, make hypotheses, test them, and voila. In terms of solving the puzzle themselves, well, you really have a range of difficulty here. As I said earlier, it is a game that both adults and children can play, but really not enjoyably and not at the same time. Let me clarify that. I had fun seeing my daughters playing as they were playing this scenario and the next scenario, etc., etc., but there was not any challenge for me. And then later, almost abruptly, at a certain point, somewhere in the intermediate, somehow they hit a wall, they could not proceed. And then, well, we played a little bit more, and then I played later scenarios by myself. There are other games by ThinkFun that have a smoother progression, in which, in fact, the children, as they are going through the easier scenarios, also get, quote-unquote, trained. They figure out certain patterns, they figure out certain ideas that they can do here too. But I felt that this is almost like a children game and an adult game, as opposed to other games by ThinkFun of this kind of like this ilk that are more for families. There are more scenarios that are still accessible to children, but also have a degree of challenge for the adults. But in general, it is a fun, simple game. It is a solitaire game, so to speak. It says single player on the box, but as my experience shows me, you can play cooperatively. Of course, all players are cooperating and working together to solve the case. In which case, if you're playing cooperatively, then having these markers here that you can use and move around as you're testing a hypothesis, and all players can see it at the same time, all players can contribute, that is definitely an advantage. Even the game as is can also be a travel game. If you're traveling somewhere, then you put all the components in a small box and you can play it as a solitaire game by yourself on the airplane, in the hotel, etc, etc, etc. So Cat Crimes for adults and children. It has some extremely simple cases that, however, will be interesting for young children. Some fairly devilish cases later in the deck. But in general, another fun puzzle by ThinkFun. The production is good, the rules are simple because again they are pretty much non-existent, and the puzzles are engaging in different levels of difficulty, but definitely engaging and fun.